You know, you can learn a lot being a rideshare driver. And over my career, 7 years, 28,000 rides, I've had two rides that were like the most memorable rides that I've had. And in this video, I'm going to share with you those two rides. And I'm going to share with you a lesson or two that I got from each of those rides. The ride that I'm going to share second has to do with Joe Montana. And it has to do with Joe Montana's shortest Uber ride in the history of Joe Montana. Now, if you don't know who Joe Montana is, he was the god of football in the 80s. He was the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm going to share that with you, and stick around at the end. I'm going to share with you why me meeting Joe Montana was not the most exciting thing that happened on that day. So that's got to get you thinking, right? So stick around, and let's do this. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Jay Crater with the RideShare Guy. Drinking my Medaglia d'Oro coffee. So, by way of background, I've had a lot of rides. And I can remember being so scared, being in a neighborhood that I didn't feel safe at 4 a.m. And I still remember a guy he was guiding me into this garage at 4 a.m. at this worst part of Oakland, and I just drove away. But I remember being so scared. This was early in my career. I remember trying to wake somebody up and him just snapping at me when he woke up, yelling at me, calling me all kinds of names, things like that. But in this video, I'm going to share with you two. One is a really challenging experience I had, and then the Joe Montana story. So here we go. Number one, I'm calling the bomb threat. So what happened was, it was San Francisco. Of course, both of these stories took place in San Francisco. And I got the ping to pick up somebody near a Wells Fargo bank south of Market. And when I got there, there was a guy, young man, and he had a case that looked like this, okay? So it wasn't like a briefcase, and it was a big case, but it was a very secure case. So I went to go pick it up to put it into my car. At that point, I helped everybody with their luggage, getting it into the trunk and then getting it out of my trunk. So I went to pick it up, and I picked it up, and it was heavy. But the guy immediately recoiled and said, "I got it." So he put it into the trunk. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. But, he got in my car. And then I realized we were driving all the way to Marin County, which would have put us over the Golden Gate Bridge. And then I noticed him in the back, and he was just kind of slumped back, and he had one of those things, coming out of his ear where he was kind of talking to somebody, and he was like sniffling a lot, coughing a lot. He looked kind of sick, he didn't look very healthy. And then it all just kind of hit me that, oh my God, what if that was a bomb that I just put into my car? This guy's a terrorist. He's sick because he knows he's going to die, right? That's got to be extremely stressful. He's talking to somebody who's walking him through it, right? His handler. And we're going to blow a big hole in the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm going to be the driver. And I wonder, I remember thinking, am I going to be considered like an accomplice, right? Are they going to think I had something to do with this? And, it was a challenging experience for sure. And where I almost pulled over. I almost pulled over before we got on the bridge. But I thought, I'm being paranoid, and this is just a guy. He's got a case. Maybe it's some kind of computer equipment, and I'm just overreacting to this. But I will tell you, I was white knuckling it across that bridge, and I had extreme fear. And then once we got across, I had extreme relief and felt pretty good about it. So what's the lesson I learned from that? Don't let my imagination run away with me like that. And, just kind of keep that even keel. And, that was the lesson. I just really let my imagination go. And he could have been a terrorist. I could have been that 1 in a million, guy who, was in that situation. But that was, obviously I'm here. So good news. Okay, ride number 2 called I'm Joe. So I got a ping It was like 10:30 in the morning. It was raining in San Francisco. The pickup point was a woman. I was supposed to pick up a woman, and it was in front of Millennium Tower. So Millennium Tower is a pretty well-known condominium building, very upscale in just a little south of Market. And I did know that Joe Montana lived there. That was kind of common knowledge, but I wasn't thinking about that because it was a woman. So I drove over there in the rain. Oh, the other thing was back in the day, we used to have this thing called surge, and it was a factor number. So you could have a surge of 2, and that means if you would normally make $12 on a ride, you would get paid $24. This was the highest surge at that point in my career that I had ever secured, and it was 5.5. The surge generally went up when it rained because more people wanted rides, right? And more drivers said, screw it, I'm not going to go driving out in the rain. So that worked in the favor of those of us that chose to drive in the rain kind of during rush hour, during that early morning time. So I had this 5.5, which was very exciting to me because if I could get a long ride, say a $15 ride times 5, that would pay me $75, right? So I was very excited. So I pulled up in front of Millennium Tower, and I'm waiting for a woman to get into my car. Guy gets in my car. I can just tell it's a guy, and I know it's not my passenger. So I say, hey, what's your name? And he goes, I'm Joe. And then the light bulb went off, was like, Joe? So I turn around, and I watched Joe Montana getting out of my car. So the bellman who worked at the building, he realized that he had put Joe into the wrong car. So he opened the door and said, hey, Joe, you're in the wrong car. So I got to see Joe Montana get in my car and then get out of my car in a matter of about 2 or 3 seconds, right? So, but that's not the end of the story. Then what happens is this woman gets in my car, and it turns out she needs a ride all the way to Foster City, so that's a long ride. That's like a half an hour ride. So I dropped her. I drove giddy with excitement thinking, man, this is going to be the biggest ride that I've ever had. And I dropped her off, and I got paid $185 for a half hour ride, which is still the highest per hour ride that I've ever done. So that's like $370 an hour. So even though I had Joe Montana in my car, and it was a great story I could share with my dad, who's a big sports fan, more exciting to me was that I made $185 in a half hour ride. So that was ride number 2. So what's the lesson there? Hey, be open to the miracles that can happen in life, right? Joe Montana got in my car, and that wasn't even the most exciting thing that happened to me that day. So I think it's a privilege, though, that we get to hang out with people in our cars and have some really interesting experiences, some really sometimes intimate conversations. And it's a great thing, and we get paid to do it. So I guess that's my key takeaway. Appreciate what you got. It's a nice opportunity, driving to make some money, talk to some cool people, learn a few things, and maybe have some stories to share with your dad. All right. So everybody, it's Jay Crater with the RideShare Guy saying thanks for watching. If you liked it, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet to our channel, subscribe, and be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Bye for now.